Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm doing a voiceover for this video because my original audio did not work out very well, so hopefully this will be much better for you to hear me. I am starting a new series on my channel called the Technique series, where I break down different techniques in wool painting and how I like to use them in my own artwork to hopefully help you with your own techniques in wool painting as well. Today we are talking all about layering, and I'm going to show you two different ways that I like to layer and when I use each one of these techniques. Before we get into that though, it is important to break down some of our supplies so we are set up for success when we go to layer. So I'm using this piece of felt here, and I have a value scale laid out in front of me, so from my darkest to my light, and these are all wool swatches from my collection that you can purchase on my website. It is important to have at least 3 different hues in your value scale when you go to layer to ensure that you're adding as much dimension as possible. I personally like to just use as many as I can. So with the pinks here, I have 4 different hues in the scale that I'm going to be demonstrating with today. On the far right, I have hibiscus. And then my next one is almond blossom, followed by petal. This is actually a very gentle light pink. It just doesn't show up as pink as well on camera. And then right beside that, of course, is snow, our white hue. So those are the swatches that I am going to be demonstrating with in this video to show you how to add dimension to your work. I am going to be just doing a rectangle for both of my examples just to showcase the different techniques. The first technique I'm going to show you in layering is what I like to call the color blocking or base layer layering. And this is essentially where you are going to be laying down a hue and then building on top of that. So when doing this, I like to start with the deepest hue in our value scale and lay that down first until I'm happy with the coverage that it provides. Once I have that, then I can start to build on top of that. As I always say to my students, which I'm explaining here with my hands in the video, what I always say to my students is less is more, okay? Less is more. You can always build. You can't take away, especially with wool painting, because you are knotting that fiber. It's very difficult to take away. So you want to make sure you're starting with less, felting that down, and then you are building on top of that until you are happy with your base. And this is true with all art mediums, not just wool. This is true with painting. This is true with sketching as well. Pastels, you want to start with less and then build till you're happy. And then that's when we can start to add more on top of that. When you're happy with that base layer, we're now going to go in with our second deepest hue. In my case, that is the almond blossom color. And we're going to strategically place this on our rectangle, or if you're using a petal, you can strategically place that here. So one side here may be darker than the other. You need to decide that where your light is coming from, or if it's your light is coming from the top and darker on the bottom. Depending on where your light is, this will vary, okay? So in this case that I'm showing you here, my light is shining from dark to light, from left to right. So that's how I'm going to place my next hue. So if you are working from top to bottom, maybe the light is coming from the very top of the petal or branch or whatever it is that you're working on, then this will be different. You're going to be working from the top down. Regardless of where your light is coming from, you always want to shade in the direction that your object is going in. So in this case, I'm still going to be working horizontally. I'm never going to be laying my fibers going vertically. So I am going to continue to lay them horizontally, so that way it gives the most definition of realism that I can possibly provide. So because my deepest part of my petal or rectangle is on the left hand side, I'm going to leave a little bit of my deepest hue, that hibiscus color, on there, and then I'm going to start with my almond blossom, that next pink, actually a little bit further in on the left and over top of the rest of the rectangle as I show you here. You want to keep building this. Again, less is more. And you may be finding when you're doing this that there isn't enough definition between the hues that you're using. That's okay. Keep building, especially with wool. Sometimes when you're actually felting down the wool, it can look a little bit different than the swatches that you have in front of you. That's why I always say never be afraid to go a little bolder with your color, because when you actually felt that down and you layered in the way that we're doing here, it does look a little bit different. So you're going to need probably a few more layers than you think with those next hues in your value scale, just to begin to show some definition here. Again, once you're happy, we're going to start taking the next hue in our value scale and continue to build in the exact same way. So leaving a little bit of space, for me, that's from the left-hand side. For you, it may be top to bottom. To let the other hues shine through, you're going to begin building with your next hue. And just like last time, you're going to continue building until you are content with what that's starting to look like. You can see it really starting to take shape here from dark to light, basically creating a value scale on the petal or rectangle that I'm showing you in the opposite way that my hues are laid out on the bottom here. Another technique that you're seeing me do right now, which I don't fully recommend, but I do a lot because it works really well, is just taking my needle and actually just very lightly dragging it across the fibers, just to sort of blend a little bit more all of the fibers together. Just be really careful if you're deciding to do this, because you will break a lot of needles this way. That's how I break a lot of needles, because sometimes I'm not as gentle as I should be when dragging that needle. I also pull, like you just see there, my fibers. You can cut them. I just find pulling them really, really lovely, gives that really organic feel, but takes some practice to do to make sure you don't pull out more than you would like to. So all these different little tidbits in there. If you want me to do a different video just on those types of things that I do, then leave me a comment below and I will definitely do that there. So there you have the first method of layering that I like to do. This again is the base layering, or the color blocking layering method, where you lay down a hue and then you add on top of that. And this works really great with petals, or any foliage and trees that you're doing, branches, things like that. That's when I use this blending method the most. And the next one that I'm going to show you is a little bit different. Same principles apply with going from dark to light, depending on where your light is coming from. That will change, but just how you lay down the fibers is going to be a little bit different. And when I use this method, I use this for water specifically, and it works really, really well for me. So I'm calling this the on-the-go layering method, and hopefully that's going to make sense as I progress through this. And I'm calling it this because you are literally laying down your hues and your value scale on the go as you're moving through that shape, that petal, whatever it is. In my case, a rectangle, you're going to be adding your hues instead of laying down a base layer and adding on top of that. So again, beginning in the same way with our deepest hue in the value scale, you're going to lay that down wherever you are creating. And instead of felting down the entire fiber, what you're going to do is just felt down part of the way, leaving a tail at the end. And leaving a tail at the end is going to help us to actually layer and blend really seamlessly as we move through the shape. So I am going to be working from left to right because that is, again, where my light is coming from, leaving a tail at the end that you can see. So if you're working from top to bottom, this is gonna look a little bit different for you. You still wanna leave that tail, but again, you can see why this works really well with water, because water flows from left to right, unless of course you're doing a waterfall, but still your fibers are moving in that same direction. So I am continuing to build until I'm happy, and then I'm going to be adding my next value scale hue right where I ended stabbing the fibers, okay? So I'm ending and then beginning with a new hue here, and that's how we're going to blend. Same thing here, you're going to be putting down that next hue until you're happy, leaving a tail, and then adding the next hue in our value scale, which is of course our petal color, that very light pink, and you're going to add it wherever you ended stabbing here, okay? So then you're going to place that, again leaving a tail, until we get to our last hue, which is of course our white. And you can see that starting to form, right? You can see the layering starting to form this really nice dimension that we're having here, and then ending with white. So you always want to have tails that are going to be left, not felted down, so that way we can blend really well with the next hue. And once you're finished laying all of the values into your shape, you can go back in and fill in any spaces that you would like to, now that it is all blended. This is really a preferred method for me. I really do love it. It takes some practice. I just feel like it's really organic and feels really natural, which is important to me when creating anything in a naturescape or a landscape. So I really love this method. It's really, really lovely in an art piece as well. And I'm going to show you an example of that in a water landscape that I'm doing right now. So here you can see the water, the different dimensions that are inside of the water. Obviously this is a blue value scale, not a pink one, but it still is the same principles. You can also see it in the grass, in the layering there, but it's really evident in the water, and that is exactly in the same principles that I just showed you in that small little rectangle, just applied here in the water. So different light source, and in my trees as well, as you can see, but different light source, but same principle, and that's the on-the-go layering. And now I'm going to show you an example of the first layering that we talked about, which is that base layering or that color blocking, which is what I use for petals, as you can see. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. Please subscribe if you are not already subscribed for more wool painting, and give this video a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in the next video.